is from this organization. And so we have not outsourced anyone for this talk. And so this is our way of showing that we have the resources, we have the expertise, and we have the professionals necessary to talk about these topics and eventually provide services if at all you are still interested. So our first speaker, our first panelist and speaker is Miss Violet Kiaria. She is a counseling psychologist with 5 years and counting experience in the field, and her areas of interest, of strengths and focus include that of loss, grief, and life transition therapy. She also focuses on mood and behavioral management, psychotherapy, and psychosocial support for children, adolescents, PWD, which is persons with disability, and postpartum mothers. And lastly, she also has a focus on psychosocial support for individuals living with lifestyle conditions such as diabetes and weight management. Her registration and licensing include MOH, which is the Ministry of Health. In fact, all medical and clinical professionals have to be registered under the Ministry of Health. And she's also licensed under the CPB, which is the Counselors and Psychology Board. Next up is our founder and lead therapist of Farm Hope Psychotherapy and Consultancy. This is Dr. Marion Mutwiri. She is a marriage and family therapist, a PhD holder, and with an LMFT, that's licensed marriage and family therapist, with a whopping 18 plus years of experience in the field. Her areas of strength and focus include the very touchy subject of the integration of the Christian faith and psychology. I must say she has been doing a great job in terms of integrating the two of this. Second is a focus in couples and psychorelational therapy. Third is child and adolescent psychosocial adjustment and therapy. Fourth is the systematic work in suicide crisis. And lastly is systematic assessment, treatment, and research in adolescents and emerging adults. Her registration and licensing include that of MOH, Ministry of Health, CPB, that's the Counselors Psychological Board, KMFT, that is the Kenyan marriage and family therapist, and then AAMFT, that is the American Association Marriage and Family Therapist. Quite the profile that Dr. Marion and our founder has. We also have a clinical psychiatrist, Dr. Igamba, who is part of Farm Hope, but unfortunately will not be with us today. However, it will be necessary to introduce who he is and how he is part of Farm Hope. He is a medical doctor with a focus on psychiatry, making him a clinical psychiatrist with 10 plus years of experience. His areas of interest are that in patients with substance use disorder, assessment, diagnosis, and treatment of psychological conditions. And lastly, he utilizes the biopsychosocial treatment plan approach. In place of him is going to be Dr. Anita, who is going to join us very soon. I will give her the opportunity to introduce herself in depth once she is here. So now let us jump right into the conversation. Oh, I forget before that, my name is Ryan Ranjek and I am your host. I hold a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, a fourth year student at USIU Africa. And my interests lie in research, analysis, and implementation in psychology, behavioral science, and systemic functioning. Lois Muriuki Our moderator for today is a counseling psychologist, currently doing her master's in counseling psychology, a student at Park University, and her interests are in individual and relational counseling, career and business counseling, teens, coaching, mentoring, and life coaching. And now into the discussion points and conversation for today. So the first reflective question I'd like to ask the audience, just to preempt everything we're going to talk about, just for you to think about and maybe even write down so that you can be able to assess and see if this is happening in your family. So the first question is your home a safe space to talk about anything? Is your home a safe space to talk about anything? This is an important systemic question for mental health, mental wellness, and proper functioning within the family and beyond. So I'd like the audience to just think about this as we continue. So we've divided this webinar into 3 different subtopics. And the first subtopic that we're going to look at today is that on emotional safety at home. Emotions are a deep part of the human experience. Anything and everything we do, all the experiences we do, have some kind of emotional tie to it. And so I've really wondered what emotional safety means at home. And I know that we face all kinds of things in the world, in school, in work, but how is all of that stress and pressure dealt with when we come at home? And to start us off, Miss Violet, what does emotional safety mean, and how can parents, couples, and children create an environment where everyone feels heard and valued? Miss Violet.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for that introduction and starting us off with this webinar. I hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, you
Am I
are.
audible? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so
Go
much.
ahead.
Thank you so much. That was such quite of an introduction for Farm Hope, and I really love the topic that you are engaging in today. And I'll discuss from a point of a counseling psychologist and emotional safety. It is something we all need to understand in our homes. When people hear mostly the word safety, they often think about that physical protection, but emotional safety never crosses our minds. But it is also as important as also the physical safety. It is that feeling that I can express myself without fear of shame, maybe rejection. That is emotional safety, or being ignored, or I'm being punished whenever I express myself. And it is a kind of environment where I can feel I am heard when I speak as Violet. I am respected with the words maybe I speak about whenever I'm expressing myself. I am accepted. I am emotionally valued. And emotional safety does not happen by accident normally, because families and even couples and all of us are built by systems, whether schools, whether relationships, environments. So all these we intentionally create it through everyday interactions that we have with one another. And I love the part that you've actually given me, Ryan, because it is like an intersect between the emotional well-being and the family dynamic usually. Just to understand, as what happens within the family usually deeply shapes your psychological well-being. And I usually tell people how you're taking in critiques right now, how you're taking in maybe reprimands right now. It all starts with how your family shaped that. And even how you're associating started with how your family shaped that. And how we can create that emotional wellness and safety around homes and even in relationships. There are practical ways. But before that, there's how usually stress, conflict, and even just trauma itself and even disconnection can affect the mind itself. When maybe someone is constantly exposed to unresolved conflict, usually the nervous system will learn, I am not safe, the feelings are dismissed or ignored. When people learn, maybe you're expressing yourself and your nervous system will start saying, my voice does not matter, and you find yourself you're shouting, and that creates that emotional disconnect usually. And families do not become healthy because they are perfect, but they become healthier because actually people are willing to listen, to learn, to repair, and even to just show up, usually for each other consistently. So how then can we create that emotional safety in us? There is one, that's active listening. Active listening is very different from just listening, because many people listen to respond normally. Many people listen to defend themselves. Many people listen to correct someone. Someone has not completed a statement that they're speaking about, and suddenly you chip in your own opinion before actually that statement ends. But active listening, it is listening to understand. When a child maybe comes to you and they say, school was terrible today, sometimes parents immediately just go into saying, you'll be fine, or focus on your studies, a very automatic response. Or other children are facing something bigger than the problem you're having right now. Very automatic response without noting. But often, like a child, in that perspective of that example I've given, the child is not looking actually for the solutions first. They are looking for emotional safety. So active listening can look like eye contact. It can look like putting your phone down when someone is speaking to you. It can look like allowing someone to finish that statement that they're speaking about, and waiting for them to pause. It looks like asking gentle questions, not questions to make them feel like, why did I even actually open up to you? So, and you can actually validate a statement that feels actually very frustrating. We are human beings. We are allowed to have all these emotions. And when family members feel heard, normally, they become more open, they become more calm, and we also emotionally connect again. And there's another thing that was on active listening. There is option 2, which is avoiding that harsh criticism, which comes automatically. As I said, sometimes there is a difference between actually correcting someone and attacking them. It is very different. So sometimes we are very quick to say maybe words like, you're lazy, or you never do anything right. You see, some automatic responses create a lot of criticism, but they're very gentle statements like, I am concerned about what is happening. You see, when someone comes to you, it doesn't matter maybe how your day was, just hold yourself back with the statements you tell these people, because harsh criticism often creates that shame in a person. It creates that fear and emotional distancing. Okay. And over time, people actually stop expressing themselves because they fear that you'll judge them as you did before. So those statements are the ones that make people to go back to their own private cocoon and not open up again. And you find that families, we are disconnecting. So people grow better actually in environments that we can correct, yes, but we are very respectful. Correction is fun, but you are very respectful. Then how else we can create this environment with emotional safety is also consistency and affection. Very important amongst family members, okay? Love in families should actually not only appear during birthdays, should not only appear during emergencies, should not only appear during achievements. No, healthy families create actually those small affectionate moments and make them very consistent. Those are the most caring moments for a person. We don't have to wait until, okay, I'm not disregarding birthdays and emergencies, they are very important. But how can we actually make it like an everyday thing in our family? There is simple techniques like greeting each other in the morning very warmly. There's no like, oh, you've woken up, go to shower, go to school. No, no, no. There are warm greetings like, how was your night? And you can prompt someone with your own night, how it was, by sharing how your dream was, what happened during the night. And that would also encourage another person to open up and share about their night. You see, those warm greetings. And we can check in emotionally also how we're feeling. I loved when we were having a conversation the other day with Dr. Marion, and she was saying about the thorns and roses, which is something very lovely, because you're asking your kid what are some of the thorns and some of the roses that you actually had during your day. That is so lovely because the kid gets to share beyond just I am fine, you know. And there's that also eating together. It creates a form of bonding. It sometimes, I understand we're in a modernized world where, okay, there's a lot of business going around, but we can create those days where we are eating together, you know. And after eating, what can we share together about our days? What are the challenges that we are facing as a family, as a dad, as a mother, as a kid, okay? And you can use some encouraging words in all this. So like children and even adults, they feel secure when love is predictable, when it is not confusing, you know. So that consistency, it will build trust, then affection builds emotional safety. So sometimes people actually remember small moments more than actually the expensive gifts, you know. Then there's another thing we can act on, that is emotional availability. So being physically present is not always the same as being emotionally present. So as a parent, maybe you feel like you're providing school fees. Maybe you feel like I'm providing food. Maybe there's shelter. But emotionally, the child still feels alone because conversations maybe are rushed. Maybe conversations are dismissed, you know. Maybe there's that absenteeism. Yet you say maybe you're present physically, but that emotional presence is not there. So emotional availability usually can look like you're asking how someone is really doing. You are creating that safe conversation. There's being like approachable, okay, without fear, not actually minimizing emotions. When someone comes to you like, I'm feeling sad because of a certain thing, to you, it doesn't look big, then we minimize that emotion. No, no, no. No minimizing emotions of a kid just because you're an adult and you can maneuver through it, you know. So when family members know they can come to you without fear of embarrassment or rejection, usually there's that emotional connection. It becomes very stronger. And sometimes people in the same house can still feel emotionally unseen. And you can imagine people are living together. Okay. And then to my last one is usually the healthy conflict resolution. Conflicts are very normal in every family. And the goal is not actually to eliminate disagreements, you know. The goal is to learn how to disagree without destroying actually the relationship. So conflicts are allowed. An important principle we can hold is usually to just avoid maybe insults, you know, that silent treatment that sometimes we come up with, the shouting, you know, bringing up the old wounds to an argument that is happening right now, the public humiliation, you know. And we can encourage very like calm conversations, talking, you can talk to this person, yes, but if you feel like the emotions are overwhelming, take a break. You can take a break and come back later. Listen before you react. There's that owning that mistake, apologizing sincerely. It's very important. So children learn actually conflict resolution by watching us adults, and they learn whether the problems are solved with respect or aggression. So healthy families are not just built in one day. They are built through the daily moments of listening, the patience, there's the affection, the accountability in between, and even the emotional presence. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Violet. That was counseling psychologist, Violet. Thank you very much for that in-depth and response. Yes, thank you very much for your reactions. Kindly keep them going. Kindly keep your questions and comments going on the chat box. We shall definitely talk about them towards the end, or rather at the end of this conversation. But just to go back on what has already been mentioned, a lot has been mentioned, and I've seen one of the comments needs some clarity on love being predictable. Yes, how children can feel that their love is predictable. But something that Miss Violet mentioned is on healthy functional living and how emotional safety is not a one-day thing. It's all the small daily moments that build up to create this emotional safe space, both for the children involved, the parents involved, and all of them together that make up the family. And so I'm curious, Dr. Marion, this is for you. How does because Ms. Violet mentioned about unresolved conflict and harsh criticism. So how does criticism, silence, or unresolved conflict affect spouses and children within the family in relation to emotional safety? Dr. Marion.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We are excited to host you, and we want to continue having this very important conversation. Before I get to that, I think I want to give a little addition from a systemic perspective on emotional safety. From a systemic perspective, we say it is not about the content. It's not what is causing us to feel unsafe. It's how we are being made to feel unsafe, what we call the process. The process is, how am I being treated for saying something or giving a thought that is different from what everybody else expects? You realize sometimes when you ask a question to a child, they want to look at you and see that they are going to answer the question in a way that you are going to accept them. So the basis of their response is actually held on, will mommy accept me? Or will I be seen as a bad girl? You know, will I be seen as a bad boy? Will I be seen as, so we hold back our thoughts. Children hold back their thoughts. Spouses hold back their feelings and their thoughts because they know they'll be crucified for them. They know they are fearing to be rejected. They are fearing to be humiliated. They are fearing to be punished. They are fearing to be abandoned. Therefore, we get to a place where family members seem like we all need to agree. You know, I don't know, sometimes we are in conflict with extended family members. And sometimes it's not all of us who are in conflict. It's one person who is in conflict, but it seems like the family wants all of us to have the same emotion. And that is a family that is unsafe, according to our systemic perspective. A family where people are triangulated. A triangle is when I look for a third party, maybe me and my husband are in conflict. We look for a child and we put that child in between. And we now begin to send the child to talk to each other. You know, that is called a triangulation. It is a negative way. It is an unsafe way that the family interact with one another. Sometimes we also have emotional cutoff. We say family members meet once in the year. You know, we meet in December, and we the rest of the time we just keep quiet because we can't stand one another. We can't stand one another. We are emotionally cut off. We only meet when there is conflict or when there is a negative thing that we need. You know, we have a barrier that we need to attend, and then we are able to connect with one another. But the rest of the time, we are not able to. There are also people in the family who have unrealistic demands. You know, they have unhealthy demands. While they do not come to meet the needs of other people in the family, they expect the family to meet their needs. That when they are in need of a graduation or a wedding of a child, or, something, the birthday of their child. They want their child, they want the person or every family member to rally behind them and support them. But someone else in the family had something last month and they did not turn up, but they expect everybody else to actually turn up. And these are unrealistic demands and expectations on the family that make people feel they are not safe in this family. According to a perspective of the structure, is that when children don't know who is the head, when children don't know who is in charge of the family dynamics, they are confused and lost and they feel unsafe. When there is a conflict that parents are not willing to bring up and tell the children, hey, I think we are having a disagreement, or we need to move and relocate. When children don't know what is happening, when children don't know what is happening in life, they are lost. They feel like their world is actually being challenged. And therefore, they begin to be afraid. They hold feelings and emotions that they are not supposed to be holding because the parents are not saying something. And we're not saying tell children everything. We are saying disclose to them enough to help them get to the place of saying, oh, I think we are safe. I think dad and mom, or I think mom, or I think the guardian is in full control of what is happening in the family. And that is very important for us to be able to look at and to understand and to focus on the fact that we have to provide that emotional safety, that predictability, that opportunity for families to be able to speak to one another what is happening in our hearts, but also speak in a way and in a manner that provides everybody an opportunity to be heard, to be accepted, and to be responded to. Sometimes we hear, parents will say, I've heard you, but then I need you to respond. I need you to say something, agree or disagree. And then that will provide us an opportunity to be able to know that I am heard. I can clarify whether what I have heard is the truth or it is actually not the truth. Now, back to the question you asked, Ryan. Criticism. How does criticism, silence, and unresolved conflict affect the family, the children, the spouse? We need to know that we are all participants in the family. There is nobody who is an observer. We are all shareholders of the family. If this family thrives, we are all thriving. But if the family is having an issue, even if it is the smallest part of that family, I've had a few accidents, and one of them is I broke my toe, the little small toe. And whether you like it or not, if you have ever been hit that little toe, you will first sit down. The whole adult you will sit down because it is so painful. It is so painful. And you have to attend to that. That is what a family is. That when the youngest person is touched and they shut, we are all affected. We are all affected. The interpretation of our experiences and our messages reverberates through the relationship. And over time, those experiences make us either love ourselves, hate ourselves, confuse ourselves in terms of we know the world doesn't like us. How did you come to that conclusion? My mom doesn't like me. So if my mom does not like me, if my mom criticizes me all the time, then who will like me? Who will like me? I think some of the things that we continue to hear and to see is that somebody said something in the family. Somebody looked at you and said, you're not beautiful. And then over the years, you have carried the image of the family. You have carried the image of a significant person. And you feel that it doesn't matter who tells you you're beautiful, because the very primary individual in your home who's supposed to love and accept you as you are criticized you. They said you drop everything. They keep quiet. If their people are silent, they don't respond to you, then it means you are of no value. So over time, these experiences shape our emotional health. In addition, they shape our relationship health, because we talk about attachment. Attachment is our ability to connect with people without fear and without anxiety, or without feeling that I will be betrayed. So when in the family you have been criticized, somebody has kept quiet, they have unresolved conflict, what happens is you realize, I am not worthy enough for anyone to engage in a conflict resolution. So why bother? So when we see signs of danger in a relationship, we are very quick to walk out. We are very quick to disconnect, because that is what we have always done in the family. We disconnect, we keep quiet, and then when we have sorted ourselves, we come back. There are families that, tell you that you need to fix yourself. So you can't keep telling people what your problems are. And you find people who come from such families, because they have been told that you need to sort yourself, is that you never get to see what it is that they need to do when they are in trouble. And there are two things that happen. We either internalize our pain or externalize our pain. When we internalize our pain, we begin to be depressive. Okay? We bring it inside of ourselves. So we withdraw, we have thoughts that are negative, we feel like, our world is so dark, and we begin to draw inward and completely withdraw from people, because that is what we have learned, that when we are feeling unheard, when we are feeling criticized, then we just shut, we just, close in. The alternative, or the other way, is that people externalize. They get it out. They become vulgar. They fight. They drink something. They engage in substance use. So they are externalizing their pain. And that's why we say, when we are going through stuff, we need to understand what is going on. People don't just walk into trouble. People don't just try to harm themselves. There is something within that needs to be understood. And given the condition, given the environment, given the opportunity, then they are able to know how, and to be able to speak about what it is that they are experiencing right there. So here are some of the things that we need to think about when we think about children and how they feel. When we frequently criticize children or shame them or compare them, that's a big deal, especially in our African society. We compare children. We say, you're not like your brother, you're not like your sister. We forget that every child is unique. When we are overcorrected, when we are rarely encouraged, when we are rarely supported to be brave and to believe, what we come to conclude as children, and children, what happens to children is they internalize the issue. They say, I am not good enough. I can never please anyone. I am a disappointment. My value depends on my performance. And especially in a culture and in a country where academic performance is very important, then we internalize that. What does that lead to? Low self-esteem, anxiety. One of the key things I have been openly speaking about is that children and adolescents are actually experiencing anxiety and depression disorders in full-blown criteria. So it is important that we begin to do that. We also develop children with perfectionism. Children who fear failure. They are so afraid of failure that they are willing to do anything so that they don't fail. We end up having people-pleasing children because they want to be accepted. And that leads them to being open in adolescence to peer influences that are negative, belonging to cliques, because if I'm not accepted at home and I have a high desire of a sense of belonging, what do? I please some people, and then I find myself into a situation. Rebellion, and anger. Not every rebellion, not every behavior is actually an issue. Maybe it is a call for somebody to take attention, or even emotional withdrawal. For a spouse, when we are repeatedly criticized, what it communicates is that I'm not good enough. We feel rejected. When we compare our spouses with other people, we compare them in terms of their ambition, in terms of their financial ability, in terms of their looks. Then what we are selling to that spouse is that we are we feel, they feel unappreciated. They feel inadequate, and they will keep trying to please you. They feel controlled, and we begin to say this relationship is toxic. They feel disrespected. And over time, what does it produce? Some of the most negative interactional patterns in a relationship. For example, defensiveness. We become very defensive. Every time before you even ask a question, I am ready with an answer. We also have emotional distancing, which may lead to what we call stonewalling or withdrawing, or even emotional cutoff, where, I will not engage you in talking about this because after all, you have dismissed me. Levels of resentment and bitterness, loss of intimacy, and all forms of intimacy begin to be affected. We don't have intellectual intimacy, sexual intimacy, and all these other levels of intimacy begin to be affected. When you think about having fun or connecting with someone, it's not your spouse you think about, because you're thinking, no, I am always trying to play hard to be accepted and to be loved. And that increases conflict, because again, remember we said it's not about the issues, it's how we go about the issues. So even when an issue that can be resolved easily comes up, what happens is that we engage in all these negative patterns of criticism and feeling emotionally unsafe, and therefore we withdraw or we do not deal with the conflict as we ought to do. So it is important for us to increase our levels of connection and to increase our levels of valuing the person, realizing that we can join together as families against the issue that is dividing us, that none of us is going. It is the problem that needs to go. None of us is less valuable. All of us are valuable, whether you're small or you are a big person. And the small person that we are ignoring is going to be the one who will ignore us later, when we are older and we need their help and we need their support. I know we are talking about black tax, and how we don't want to be part of black tax. But a lot of us are treating our parents in ways that they treated us. It's just that we are reciprocating back, in their time when they need us, when they need to connect with us, and we're like, but you are not there when I needed you. And I think one of the funny things, Ryan, that has happened is a question of, why do we lose men very fast after they retire? Why? Because they really never built meaningful connections at home. Their children and their spouses were not their friends. And therefore, they had big titles and big jobs out there in the city. They had titles. And when those titles become stripped away, what happens? You are, you're lost. So you come back, try and rule and be a tyranny of, everybody in the house, and people are looking at you and they are thinking, by the way, as we moved on, and we created another safe environment outside of you, because we were not feeling safe. So what do we need to do? We need to encourage instead of criticize. We need to coach. I say, if you haven't coached somebody, then don't expect to give an exam of something you've never taught. Teach respect, let's respect one another. If we can respectfully correct one another, then that will be appreciated. Let's appreciate. And I think Violet has talked about that. Instead of us keeping quiet, let's say, I don't know what to say. Or please, I am so angry. If I open my mouth right now, I'm going to say something that I will regret. Let us take that moment and take a break and say, okay, tomorrow at 6 p.m., when all our emotions are down, we can talk about it. Let's be present in our listening. Good people, let's put our phones down. Let's put gadgets down. We are telling kids, listen to me, but we are the ones who are not listening to them. We are the ones who are speaking to them while holding our phones. Let's listen. Let's be emotionally available and responsive. The only way I know you have heard me and you're not just keeping quiet is when you respond to me. And let's also be honest in our conversations. Let's both be open to hear what is honest, and let's be able to communicate what is honest. And finally,
Yes.
instead of us keeping unresolved issues, that we will come back and say, you know, you have always done this to me. You know, last year in June 20th at 7 p.m., you did exactly the same thing. Can we learn to keep a short record of wrongs by bringing up this issue? Okay, let us communicate in a healthy way. Let us forgive one another. And forgiveness doesn't mean we don't resolve issues. No, 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 no. Forgiveness begins by first resolving issues, understanding what you did to me. And sometimes in forgiveness, by the way, you will ask for forgiveness. Sometimes you will give it. I say the first word of forgiveness is before you ask. So,
thank you.
Yeah, and it is important for us to begin to do that. Let us, as much as we can as family members, reconcile. But also, let's accept that there are moments in our lives we will agree to disagree.
Yeah, indeed.
We will agree to disagree. But also, let's focus on the problem. Let's focus on the problem. When we cannot focus on the problem, we will never resolve anything. But also, as a community, let us seek help. Help is available for all of us. All of us need help because we are not perfect human beings, and we can get the help that we need around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Marion. In fact, I want us to stay on that point that we should focus on the problem. I liked what you said earlier. It's not about the issue, but it's about how the issue is addressed that continues to create this emotional instability. Once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Thank you for your reactions. Please keep them coming. Dr. Marion, kindly check on your volume. I see some comments saying that they could hear you a bit muffled, but I definitely heard everything you said. But on that point that you said on the issue, it's not about the issue, but how it's addressed. And it seems like how these issues are being addressed is what is prolonging the emotional distress. And so I'd like to direct this next question to Dr. Anita. I hope she is here. And the question is, when does emotional distress become serious enough to require clinical intervention and diagnosis? Anita, Dr. Anita, thank you.
Thank you very much for granting me this opportunity, and I'm sorry for joining in late. So when does emotional distress become serious enough to require clinical intervention and diagnosis? So I think first and foremost is to realize that you're not okay. But this is a sad part because most of us will not realize that we are not okay. It is the people around us that will tell us that we are not okay. So it is the people around us to treat us with empathy and realize these signs and symptoms. This Anita, how do you know? How do you really know Anita? Who is Anita? What is Anita's character? Is Anita an introvert? Is Anita an extrovert? What does Anita love doing? So these are the simple things that we tend to assume. Just like, maybe I can ask a question. Today morning, when you looked at your neighbor, or probably when you meet your neighbor or your colleague at work, and you just ask, good morning, that's the usual ask. Good morning, good morning. Hi, how are you? Is there a person who goes that extra mile and asks me, Anita, what's up? Your eyes are swollen. These are the signs of emotional distress that I, as Anita, maybe I would not say, but I'm waiting for someone to ask me or to notice that. As a person, you can start isolating yourself. And maybe I will not know that I'm isolating myself, but you as my friend, as my partner, you will realize that these days I've stopped watching news and I love watching news. These simple things like having meals together. With the technology that we have, everyone is on phone. You're eating, you're with your phone. In a matatu, you're with your phone. We fail to pick these things. Having meals together, going to church, going to the places, the social events that you're used to be going, being irritable. You're at work, what do you say? These days, I don't know what is wrong with John. You cannot have a conversation with him. Why is it that we're not having that conversation with John at the moment? And John used to be the person who will be the first person to take the tea break and have a chit chat with people everywhere in the office. So this kind of changes that a person experiences, isolation, sadness, someone who has become teary, you just find someone just crying without a reason. For you, most of the time we'll say there's no reason, but if you move that step, one step further, there is something that is bothering me. And what do I need? I need you to notice it.
Yes.
Most of us, we love talking. No one loves listening. Everyone wants to talk.
Yes.
But I pray that we learn to listen, and not just to listen with our ears, but to listen with our eyes. So what are these other symptoms that you can tell that you're undergoing some emotional distress? You can even present with physical symptoms, like you have headache throughout. You go to the hospital, you have headache, you start experiencing body pains, and when you're checked, blood works are done, nothing is found. What do we say? Most of the time we say, maybe it is stress, or maybe it is 1, 2, which you can point out. But when you start experiencing physical symptoms, which cannot be picked at the hospital, that would be a sign of emotional distress. Another thing, simple habits, impaired concentration at work. If it is a child in school, you start seeing your child is dropping. And as Daktari has just said, what do we start doing? Most of the time we compare, probably you're not working extra hard, or you've joined too much of sports. We always try to look for a reason, and we tend to miss the actual trigger that has brought this, or the baseline of the problem that we have at hand.
I see.
Impaired concentration at work, impaired concentration at school. You start even this distractibility. You're not able to start a task and bring it to completion. These are signs of emotional distress.
Yes.
Another thing is when someone starts having talks of feeling of unworthiness, suicidal thoughts, and someone must not tell you that I want to kill myself, or the way someone talks, the environment, some things you just feel, why is this person all of a sudden is having very strange things that he's carrying? Why should I start carrying a rope in my car for security purposes? We should not leave it as there. Let us all learn to take that one step further when we are dealing, especially with our family members and our friends and our colleagues at work. Suicidal thoughts. When someone tells you that I feel I can just throw myself, most of the time, what do we say? We say, the ones who want to kill themselves don't say, don't speak. That's what we say. If the ones who kill themselves, they actualize it. They don't tell it out. But these days we say we should not take such wordings lightly. Anything around a person, any change of behavior or character is a red flag, and it's a sign for a cry of help. So
see.
let us listen more and open our eyes more.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anita.
Yes,
Yes. So indeed, from everything I've gotten from you, from what you said, anytime there's clear physical distress from your friend, from your neighbor, from a person that around you, and let's say they go to the hospital and they're just treating the symptoms, but they're not addressing the root of the problem. And it's indeed at that point where they need to acknowledge and decide whether they're going to change, decide whether their family members are going to help in order to seek treatment that is beneficial to them. In fact, you have talked very well about this topic. In fact, it leads us to the next conversation that is on mental disorders. But first, another reflective question for our audience. If you'd like, please write this down so that you can go over it with your family even beyond this talk. So a reflective question to the audience: what hidden family patterns and warning signs should we recognize at home? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, these are important systemic questions for mental health, mental wellness, and effective functioning. And as you ponder a bit on that reflective question, I am now going to hand it back over to Lois, who will continue taking us through the next part of the conversation. Lois, are you with us?
Yes, Ryan, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, you are.
All right,
So
thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you, Ms. Violet, Dr. Marion, and even Dr. Anita for taking us through that very important bit of emotional safety at home. I believe we have all learned quite a lot right there. And even as we get into the next session, which is about mental health conditions, we've all heard about this term, mental health condition, but we really understand what mental health conditions it means and what they are. Statistics shows that 1 out of 8 people globally has a mental health condition. Yeah, that is quite a frightening statistic. So in the next session, we'll want to delve into this to discuss this a bit detailed and get to understand what do we mean by mental health conditions, what are some of the most common mental health conditions, and how, as Dr. Anita has already highlighted in many ways of being able to pick out the warning signs of these mental health conditions. And as Brian has said, I think one of our audience is asking us to repeat the reflection question, and it is: what hidden family patterns and warning signs should we recognize at home? What hidden family patterns and warning signs should we recognize at home? So the first question will request Ms. Violet to take us through is: what are the common emotional and behavioral signs of anxiety and depression? What are the common emotional and behavioral signs of anxiety and depression, Ms. Violet? Also, as you tackle that question, you can also help us understand what do you mean by mental health condition? Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Lois, for that. What an insightful way to start us with the mental health conditions. But before we dive in, I really love what has been shared by our psychiatrist and Dr. Marion in general. I just want us maybe to put in our chat box. Imagine a friend who suddenly becomes very withdrawn, stops replying to your messages, loses interest in things maybe you two used to love doing together, and seems like they're constantly tired. What should you do in that situation? And be very human in your response. It's just a typical you. What should you do? Your friend is no longer replying to your messages, they seem withdrawn, and now they have lost interest in the things they love. What should you do? You can put it in the chat box, and then Lois will help me go through them after I talk. I'd really love to hear from your natural perspective, your reaction, how it would come out. And then we can put our heads together, we feel what would be the right way to react moving forward. So with the mental health conditions, mental health is as important as your physical well-being. And being in the space of counseling psychology, I noticed that many emotional and mental challenges are deeply connected, and people are may present these things very differently, but underneath there's a common pattern to it. And one major challenge is commonly the emotional overwhelm that we have today. Many people are carrying stress, let's say from work. People are carrying financial stressors. People are carrying parenting stressors, people are carrying relationship stressors, health concerns, there's the societal type of expectations around it all. And over time, all these collectively affects your emotional well-being. I commonly encounter things to do with especially anxiety, especially around my field. And it comes from uncertainty, performance pressure, as Dr. Marion had noted before, the fear of failure and the need to always hold everything together, And for young people, allow me to touch on young people especially, this shows up a lot through the identity struggles. And even these identity struggles, like some struggles we used to pick in late adolescence, we are now picking those identity issues in preteens right now. There are things to do with academic pressure. There's comparison culture that is out there, difficulties with the self-esteem generally, and all these people, we are living with it amongst ourselves, whether we are at work, whether we are in families, and this creates a very wide emotional struggle in us that tampers with everyday functionality, as a psychiatrist of putting it out there. And emotional struggles do not always look dramatic. Not always. They do not always look dramatic. And sometimes they appear quietly, quietly through behaviors. Behaviors can change. There's the withdrawal, there's irritability, someone looking very exhausted, or there's loss of interest. But there are common signs on how you can actually note someone is having anxiety. However, I usually tell someone you can gauge this to be within a time frame of the past 2 weeks, okay? If it has been ongoing in this person for the past 2 weeks, then you feel comfortable to reach out to a healthcare provider for them to be attached to either a psychiatrist or a psychologist. One common thing with anxiety is overthinking. Notice this person is always overthinking. An issue with profound or catastrophizing issues, there's restlessness that comes after the overthinking because it has already tampered with the brain chemicals that are in you. Suddenly, this person is reporting, I'm having sleep issues, Sleep gets tampered because of how busy your brain is getting over time. It's constantly working, it's constantly trying to generate ideas back to back. So the brain doesn't rest, There is that constant worry with issues, whether an issue is so ambiguous or minute, the worry is so excessive that it causes you restlessness. And apart from the anxiety itself, there is also the physical part, and I think the psychiatrist also touched on it. We call it the somatic symptoms, most of them. So sometimes it can display itself physically, and sometimes you notice this person has a lot of shakiness, where they're sweating a lot, they're panting, that's also a sign or anxiety has kicked in that person. And most of the time when I attend to my clients, I tell them it's a very linear scale where it all starts with negative thoughts and then leading to overthinking, leading to anxiety and then depression. And so after anxiety, there's usually depression, part of it. And how you can notice these depressive sides normally, it's through the person has a sense of hopelessness. They seem like they are giving up easily. You know, you're trying to talk to this person, but why are you sensing like they are losing their sense of purpose? You know, they no longer are very energetic about the ongoings, the future, how it looks like. So there's also low energy, you know. Then they start isolating. Then slowly there's that emotional numbness that comes with it, and then affects again the physical, which they lose appetite, sleep becomes an issue again. And you can watch out for this. And if it has been ongoing, I said for the past 2 weeks, we normally recommend the person to be referred to a psychologist for further assessment. And a psychologist, some work very closely with a psychiatrist. So some warning signs maybe as families you can be aware of, or you should never ignore usually. They are emotional warning signs, they are behavioral warning signs, and also physical. So for emotional, you can see this person is persistently sad, you know. This person, no matter how much you're trying to uplift their mood, why is it today, tomorrow? There's a pattern of sadness that is going on, you know. There is also emotional withdrawal. This person no longer, there's that numbness, you know. You see, like the way physically you can pinch someone, you feel pain. And for numbness is they're not feeling any emotions, you know. They have withdrawn. Irritability kicks in. Once irritability kicks in, there's also that extreme mood changes. There's the highs and the lows, you know. There's that no way you can predict that person's emotional wellness. You know, today you don't know how you find this person. Will I find actually Mukami is sad today? Will I find them they're happy today? You will also start getting anxious approaching this person. And there's that increased secrecy that comes in as part of emotional warning signs. So if you notice this friend or family member has increased secrecy around it, it is also part of the emotional warning that indeed they're struggling emotionally. That's how you can know. And how else can you know someone is struggling emotionally? You can also identify through the behaviors. Through the behaviors like work performance, there's a sudden decline. Okay, you understand this person how they have been doing their work, but suddenly, why is there low production in how they have been doing it? The output is no longer similar to how it has been before. There's also school, like also performance has declined. There's loss of interest in things they used to enjoy. This person used to enjoy hiking with you. Maybe they used to enjoy karate, they used to enjoy swimming, but suddenly they're like, I don't like karate, I don't like football anymore, you know? Such kind of behavioral science is where you can know that someone is struggling even emotionally. There's isolation from family. You have a family meeting, suddenly this person has left the group, this person does not want to meet up. Aggressive kind of reactions also. Maybe when the screens are taken away from them or limited, or the substances are also limited, you know. As Dr. Marion mentioned, there's that part of we are using also substances as a coping mechanism. So when there's that aggressive reaction, whenever there's a limited amount given to you, you know. Apart from behavioral, there's that bit of the physical. You can notice the somatic ones I was speaking about. The sleep has changed. Suddenly, this person is complaining about a lot of fatigue, you know. There's appetite issues. They're not eating like they used to eat before. You're noticing the red eyes, poor hygiene. Self-care has become very not okay anymore. There's those frequent headaches they're complaining about. And these are the things like if you go to a triage and your vitals are done, sometimes, yeah, they may find that actually your vitals are okay. And some nurses may identify very quick, you need a psychologist. But for some, maybe you're like, nimepatikana, I am okay. So let me go home and continue with the same routine. No, you should go for an assessment from a psychologist. And something that has come up also, there is the digital warning signs also that make people struggle emotionally as well. there's that bit of always being online almost constantly. Being online is okay, but there's that being online almost constantly. It raises question marks. What is this person avoiding? Why? What are they looking up to constantly online? This panic or anger when they're disconnected from that gadget, panic or anger kicks in. They have secret accounts or hidden kind of online activities going on in their phones or the laptops, There's all these passwords in apps that you do not understand what is going on. And this is a person maybe before they were very open. And then that always leads to neglecting responsibilities because screen time has been increased, So most of my time I spend it on the screen, so I neglect any other responsibilities, including work or self-care. Self-care is usually the first thing actually people neglect very easily when already the emotional struggle is kicking in. And so families we should aim to just create that emotionally safe environment where conversations can happen very early, and practical tools, maybe we can just encourage an open conversation. Maybe we learn a tip or two here on good communication, how it looks like. We can listen without actually that immediate judgment. We normalize talking. I think Dr. Marion shared on this, just creating healthy boundaries, screen-free type of family times, And all this will create very healthy families. Yes, thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Violet, for that insight. Thank you so much for taking us through those common signs. And I believe that we have all been able to capture and also understand the various signs, whether it's emotional, behavioral, or even physical, so that we are not caught off guard, yeah? And as Violet had shared, what would you do? It is interesting to see the responses of the chat box. And looking at them, you just behaving like us, the normal Kenya, let me say that, yeah? Where somebody you send a message to somebody, hi, they don't hi you back, you send another hi, you just leave them, you let them be. Yeah, that's our normal. It's like they need their space. So we are giving them their space here. But I think we are learning here that, not necessarily that they really need their space. That something could be going on with them. And then it becomes us then to be able to step in and figure out whether they are okay. Yeah, let us be able to step in, find out whether they're okay. And if they are not, be able to guide them and to lead them to places where they can get help. Thank you so much, Madam Violet, for that. And I think as we continue with this discussion, I want to look in Dr. Marion to help us understand. We've had it from all these signs, the individual signs from families. Now we want to go from individuals and we want to go into a more systemic setup where is the family dynamics and how they can worsen or relieve anxiety and depression. I'll repeat that question. How can family dynamics worsen or relieve anxiety and depression? Over to you, Dr. Marion.
Thank you. Thank you for the continued conversation. As we began to ask, I think the question is our family safe enough for us to be able to receive what we call mental health first aid in the family before anyone else knows? Are we able to know, or we are not able to know based on what our families are going through? I think one of the things we need to realize is that mental health problems don't happen in isolation. They happen within a family. They happen within an environment. And although we know there are biological connections and personal experiences that are connected to our mental well-being, we also know that there are family relationships, communication patterns, and beliefs that, and even coping styles that can be a protective factor or a risk factor to people in experiencing aspects of mental well-being. So how can family dynamics worsen or relieve these aspects? I think for us to be able to answer that question, we need to ask ourselves, what are some of these hidden patterns that might worsen or that will relieve a person's mental well-being? For example, emotional silence and suppressing issues. Messages that we give our children: don't cry, be strong. These are things that can worsen mental health problems, because then a person needs to be strong when they're experiencing something. Such contributes to anxiety, depression, and emotional disconnection, because you are telling them, don't do this. Or even substance use, because then if I can't do this, then let me go and maybe take something, then I can have the courage or the reason why I will be able to express these feelings and these emotions. Another pattern is chronic criticism and perfectionism, where we know that we love approval and dependence. And that can make a person feel like they are afraid to fail. So when I'm afraid to fail, I will work very hard, and I am going to keep asking myself, am I worth? Because my worth is connected to achievement. So when I am not doing very well, and I am afraid of going home and being asked what happened, then I start to hide things, and I internalize my pain. I become anxious. I'm anxious of, I got a C and not a B in my exam this term. So how will I even face my parents? And we begin to even we begin to prepare a new report, report card. And home, who will know, and we go very many heights, especially in university and campus. We can go to great heights, even to ensuring that we even create a degree certificate because we are too afraid to be honest with one another. Something else, family unresolved marital conflicts are a big risk for mental health problems for our children. And we actually ignore it or play it down, and it can worsen. A child who's already feeling life is not positive and now add a conflict between parents, it begins to make them feel that there is a problem here. When they see parents are frequently criticizing each other, withdrawing, threatening separation, physical violence in the home, engaging in silent treatment, children absorb that. In fact, they begin to blame themselves and say, mom and dad are fighting because of me, mom and dad are fighting because I have not passed my exam. So they blame themselves. They learn unhealthy patterns of interaction, which become what they use later in their lives or even in their relationships. Other aspects or patterns in the family that may worsen the situation, I'll come to the ones that can make the situation better, is being enmeshed or over-involved. Now, some families think, wow, we are always on each other's business. That is a good thing. That's not true. Over-involved in each other's lives, as individuals, as couples, or even over-involvement in our children's life is really not good, because some families have very weak boundaries where my personal space is not respected. And when my personal space is not respected, everybody wants to tell me how many children I should have, where I should take my children to school, what I should do, and they can come to my house, wear anything, wear my children's things. Like literally there is no boundary. And when their parents control their children's emotions too much, you should not feel that way. You can't think like that, then what we are doing is that we are over-engaging in that, and we contribute to anxiety, dependency, difficulty making decisions. So that now when you want a child to make decisions, they can't make decisions because you have been making these decisions for them, and they've never had to experience consequences of their own choice. Another hot one is called emotional neglect. Patterns of emotional neglect in a family become a big problem, and they can lead to depression, attachment difficulties, loneliness, and things like that. Addiction, and I think Violet had mentioned this, and dysfunctional coping. When family members have a pattern, then we see the family has a pattern of alcohol use, gambling, substance use, workaholic, or being an alcoholic. Sometimes being an alcoholic is trying to avoid problems or emotional avoidance. All these become an issue. Intergenerational trauma. We see parenting styles that are negative, rejecting beliefs that are, negative. They lead to abuse, abandonment, domestic violence, and things like this. So then what are some of the patterns that are important for us to actually look at? One is being able to create a positive environment in the home. A positive environment in the home is creating a safe environment, as we are talking about, where family members can say when they are not okay and they can come home. I keep saying the statement east to west home is best. Sometimes it's not a true statement, because sometimes home is not best. Sometimes a friend's place is best, but we can create an environment where home is best. Secondly, is we can be able to practice healthy communication, where we tell ourselves, you are accepted as you are. You don't need to do anything to be accepted. And when I first begin with that statement, is that whatever else a person says, we need to listen without correcting them. We need to understand without advising, and we need to validate before we think of solving problems. Sometimes we don't need a solution. We just need to be heard and somebody to say, what? You went through what? That is sad, And simple questions like, how are you really doing? What has been difficult lately? How can I support you? The other thing that is big for our culture is we need to reduce shame. I think in the comment here, somebody said, being unwell has become so okay that it's not a problem to say that I am unwell or I am not okay. We need to go beyond the statement of I am not okay. What are you doing about it? Because you can't not be okay and you're sitting there doing nothing. And if you are not okay and you're sitting there doing nothing, then that's what Daktari Anita has said. Let us be the ones to recognize and do something about it. And let's reduce shame. When we want to say, we want to stop blaming people and saying, what's wrong with you? We want to ask the question, what is happening to you? What happened to you today? How can we be of help? This helps to bring about growth and to bring about health and help-seeking patterns. And the other thing is to strengthen family connections. Family connections are important. Help families to be healthy, to eat together, to pray together, to play together, and to talk together. There's a statement that says, you have no right to correct the children if you cannot connect with them. If you can't connect with them, then don't correct them. So connection for resilience becomes important. And finally, we need to seek to address family conflict. Let's not leave conflict unaddressed. Conflict that is left unaddressed is going to catch up with us. And with that, it is important to seek help early. We can seek help early. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing stuff. Hey, great learning here. Connect before correct. You've heard all that, yeah? Yeah, before we go correcting, as parents, we are really learning how to really interact with our kids and how to come to their level, to stop telling them, boys don't cry, yeah? And to really, when you ask that question, like, how are you doing? To really get into the how that kid is doing in order to be able to ensure that we bring them up well with the mental health that they require. And even as families, couples, married people in the house, how we behave, the examples we set before them, how we resolve our conflict, how it is very important and how it affects in the well-being of the mental well-being of the family. So we continue to the last question when it comes to to this, the mental health, and this question is directed to our psychiatrist, Dr. Anita. And kindly, Dr. Anita, briefly help us deal with how are anxiety, depression, and substance use disorder treated. These are some of the most common mental disorders. So how are they treated?
Okay, thank you very much. And as we connect before we correct, I'd like to say it is okay not to be okay. Let us all know that it is okay not to be okay. So how do we deal with anxiety and depression and substance use disorder? How do we treat them? How we treat mental disorders in general. If I summarize it, we call it biopsychosocial spiritual model. So the biological aspect of it is we give you medication. If you have anxiety, you are given medication to relieve the anxiety. If you are depressed, you are given antidepressants. What if you have the substance use disorder? First, you have to know what is this substance that you're using, and how will you know that you have substance use disorder? There are those characters or signs and symptoms that will tell you that you have substance use disorder. Before now, we treat you as per what you are using or you are abusing. So once you give medication, depending on the kind of disorder that you have, next we look at the psychological part of it. So the psychological aspect of it, and it's good, I've said the management is biopsychosocial spiritual model. There's a reason why we add the spiritual aspect when we are managing mental health. The Africanicity in us, we tend to associate mental issues with witchcraft, with the things that we have in our society, but mental illness is an illness just like the other. That's why we have added the aspect of the spiritual part. So the psychosocial part of it, how do we handle this? We advise that if you cannot handle it, if you can go to a friend and you're not getting the support that you need, kindly seek help. But before we seek help, what can we do at home for ourselves? Let us learn to practice self-care practices. Self-care practices, we advocate for self-care practices. And how do we deal with these self-care practices? And maybe if I can start by asking in relation to self-care, each one of us can ask ourselves, when was the last time you just went and treated yourself, you as a person, and not got worried about, oh, my children have not eaten meat. Why am I eating meat in this hotel? It is not always about other people. At times, selfishness is good. When was the last time you said, this December, I'm buying myself a dress for Christmas? Because we always forget ourselves. It's always about others. It's about my husband. It's about my children. It's about my parents. When is it about you? I think when we start, because we cannot share from an empty cup. If you cannot love yourself, you cannot love me. Let us start by loving ourselves. So how do we do this self-care? The physical aspect of it, it is good and important that you have at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep in every 24 hours for you to be productive the next day. Physical activity. Walk instead of taking the motorbike, instead of driving to the mall, driving to the market. Take that 30 minutes walk a day. It is healthy. Another thing, eat healthy. The psychological aspect of it, what do? We say, do something for a better cause without expecting a reward. Simple things as going to the church. Today is a Saturday, tomorrow is a Sunday. Let me just go and wipe these seats so that tomorrow when the people come, let them sit on clean seats. The little things that we do for other people without expecting a reward, they bring satisfaction in our hearts and in our souls without even talking to someone. Let us learn to do something for a better cause for someone. Another aspect is journaling. When you feel overwhelmed, put it down on paper. By the time whatever that you wanted to tell me that you feel I have offended you, by the time you finish writing and you pen off, you will feel relieved and you've not spoken to anyone. Let us learn to journal. We don't have to have confrontations, or you don't have to speak back to all things that someone has spoken to you about, or to all conversations. Put it down on paper and you will feel relieved. Another thing is letting your emotions flow. There's nowhere that has been documented or a research that has been done, that it has been written that men do not cry. Let your emotions flow. If you feel like crying, cry. If you feel that you're very happy, laugh. Let no one tell you that, Anita, why are you laughing so loudly? You're a noisemaker. Just be you. Because the aspect of being you and someone accepting you as you are brings about emotional safety. Be you. Let your emotions flow. Take a walk. Nature has a way of healing. In the evening, have that walk. You feel overwhelmed, you feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel worried. Take that walk. The social aspect of it, I say, always try to remain connected. And if you're not connected, let that neighbor, that friend reach out. Don't tire of reaching out, because there are some people who tend to withdraw. And when I withdraw, you think I'm overwhelmed with work. Reach out. But now how do we build this in the social aspect or connection in our family setups? Because most of the time you just find people, daddy does not talk to mommy. When was the last time? You know, there's some children, even when you ask them, they tell you they don't remember the last time that they saw daddy and mommy laughing. It's about work. It is about what do you need? What do you want? How do we build these social connections at home? I always give a practical example of it's the small things that we do in the house. For example, you can decide as the head of the house today, and you tell the family, today I'm the one who is going to prepare the supper for us. And you call your daughter or son, John, come, let us prepare supper together. As you're putting the ugali, or maybe probably you're cutting the tomatoes, and your son tells you, hey, daddy, na hizi tomato mbona unakata kubwa kubwa? I think you should slice them a bit small. That is where conversations start. You don't need to take me out for a holiday for us to bond. Bonding starts with these small things. That is how we build these connections. There's little things in the house. The next minute I will ask you, hi, daddy, and the onion should not be too brown like that. The next day we do something else together. The third day, I will be free and open to bring up a conversation and probably share the challenge that I have. So, social connections, we need to have, you need to have sacrifice. You need to sacrifice time, sacrifice money. There's no way we can build a social connection without sacrifice of time and money. You need to find time to call me. You need to spend to call me. Another aspect of it is the professional part of it. And this still comes together with now the academic for those who are in school. There's a reason why we have break times and lunch times. I always say, we tend to take this, the work or the job opportunity that we have so much in our heart that we tend to forget about ourselves. Little do we know that if I fall dead today, someone will be at my desk tomorrow. But you don't have that time. We don't get that time to reach out to someone. I'm busy at work. I can't go for lunch. There are people, if you ask them in a month, how many times have you gone for lunch? And maybe even I myself am a culprit. I'm just working. You just find the day is over and I'm back at the house and I'm like, mnajua sijakula kitu kuanzia asubuhi. That should not be the case. That should not be the case. That's why we have a lunch break and a tea break. Make use of it. Even when you don't have money, go take a walk in that compound, go to the washroom, wash your face, apply your makeup, come back to the office. That is important. For those who are in school, let us put goals that we can achieve. Let us put achievable goals so that we don't get anxiety, we don't get depressed because you've not achieved a goal. And I tell the students that I see that you don't have to get 100% or a 60% if you know you get a 30%. Why can't we say we are getting a 35 this coming exam? That is still an improvement. But I know as parents, that is still not enough for us. But for you, whatever that percentage that you have, and you have improved even with one, I want to believe you need to clap for yourself. That's a day that you need to say, today, I'm going to buy an ice cream. I am from 30 to 35. That is what we need. The improvement, it's about the journey. It's never about the end goal. How is this journey? And what can you learn from the journey? So the last part of taking care of ourselves, the spiritual aspect of it, I believe one of the speakers has spoken about it. It's about the spiritual aspect, which I say the first thing is forgiveness. Most of us tend to carry burdens which we really literally should not carry. Let us learn to forgive as quickly as the offense has come in. And once we forgive now, we can now go to the part of the higher power. You can go to the higher power and ask him or her, I have done A, B, C, D. What can you do for me? This is where I have reached as a man, take over. Yes. And as I wonder, maybe in relation still to the management of now the mental illnesses, it is very important to realize how best we can cope with stress, because stress is one of the major contributing factors to all these things. And this stress is about what happened last year. There's someone who talked about it. What is happening tomorrow? Can we learn to start practicing what we call mindfulness? Let us learn to appreciate what we have now and live with gratitude. Once you have these challenges, can you try and challenge them with these positive things? Oh, I have this son of mine, he uses these things, A, B, C, D. But why can't you look at a positive aspect of him and say, he has A, B, C, D, but F is good in him. Can we learn to focus on the good things of people in the family? Because we are diverse. The same way we have someone who is a peacemaker in the family, another person is just a troublemaker, but even that troublemaker, there's something that he contributes. There's someone who said that everyone has a sense of value in him. Everyone has some value in that family, however little. If we learn to appreciate that, I believe we will have a harmony in our houses. So as we manage our stress, let everyone analyze what are these triggers that are making me be where I am now. And these triggers, am I able to realize them themselves? And am I open to hear what people are telling me that there's this and this and this that we see it is off from who you are, Anita, the Anita that we know. Once you know these are the triggers, ask yourself, am I able to delete this challenge that I have? If you're able to delete this challenge, delete it and be at peace. But what happens if you're not able to delete this challenge? We say you try and avoid it. If you know this boss of mine quarrels every time when I reach 8:05, why can't you say, let me just try and sleep early and reach at 8? You try and avoid. But there are things that we cannot avoid in this life. You cannot delete, we cannot avoid. What do? We learn to live with it. But how do we learn to live with a challenge? Or how do we learn to live with a challenge or something that is unpleasant to us? Focus on the positive of that thing. In every challenge, there's something that you learn. In every failure, there is something that you learn that you can better. Let us learn to focus on the good things of other people for us to live with them. And it is okay not to be okay. When you feel you're overwhelmed, kindly seek help. That is why Marion is there. That is why I'm here, and the rest. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Anita. Hey, there's a lot we're unpacking there today. I wish we had more time. Time flies when information is flying. It's amazing. It's amazing how we are learning how to be mindful, how to do something. I don't know, ask yourself, when the last time you did something for a better cause? When the last time you did something for a better cause? Not to get any recognition, not to make any money, but just so that somebody else can enjoy without even knowing that you're the one who did it. Yeah. How are we taking care of ourselves? How are our social connections? We are learning a lot on how to take care of ourselves, and I wish we had more time, because we'd really get into more and more details of this. There's a lot to unpack here. But let me take this opportunity to thank all our speakers and their very insightful information, starting from creating the safe spaces in our homes, and even the family dynamics and how they affect our mental health, and coming to how can we be able to diagnose, what we look out for, those warning signs that Violet talked about, the behavioral, the somatics, and also when it comes to how do we now that we've realized that we are here, how do we then what do we do to be able to ensure our mental health is in good state? And Anita has given us a lot of pointers there in terms of how to take care of ourselves, and how to at times just go and do that thing that you enjoy doing, whether it is going shopping, whether it's going on a solo coffee date, whether it is, going for a movie date, just being able to take some time out and just loving on yourself. It's important to do that. And also to do some journaling. If journaling is your thing, to listen to some music and dance to it, if that makes you happy. It's all about self-care. And also just making sure that you're connected socially. It is very important that you're part of a society, you're part of a community. And as she mentioned, you have to invest in it. You have to invest money in it. You have to invest your time in it, so that you can be socially connected. And again, she mentioned about professional breaks. If you're a 8 to 5 person, or even a student, utilize those breaks. They were put for a reason. Don't be the person who works over lunch hour. They forget to take their lunch, and don't even manage to take a break or a walk over lunch hour. All these things are very important pointers towards our mental well-being. So thank you very much, our panelists. And at this point, I think I'd like to welcome Ryan back, so he can take us through some question and answer time. And even as Ryan takes us through that, I'll encourage us to continue commenting on our chat boxes, asking our questions there, and even be able to put what we have learned. We can highlight what you have learned through the session in our chat boxes, and also any area that you may have that you can be able to address, even as we bring this conversation to a close.
Yes. Thank you very much. Grace. Thank you very much, speakers, Dr. Marion, Ms. Violet, Dr. Anita, for all the insightful points, remarks, for all the evidence-based remarks on all the different topics that we've talked about. Unfortunately, we do not have enough time to go through the third subtopic that we had prepared for us today, and so we will have to push this on to the next webinar, because this is first of many. So I'm going to go straight into the reflections and Q&A, and now this is going to be the opportunity for maybe one or two of us in the audience to quickly say something, a question or a comment. It can be anything. Just from one person or maximum two because of time. But based on the discussion thus far, what reflections end questions do we have? Is there anyone who would like to say anything? You can just raise up your hand so that I know who it is. Going once. Going twice. Okay, we have a hand from Anne Kerochi. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes.
And Dorcas Mongeli. Yes, let's have the two of you say something. Okay, Anne, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be part of this insightful discussion. I've known Maron for quite a long time, and I did not know she has so many friends who are so loaded with very helpful information. And I'm so glad to be part of this. I have a quick question. I know it's a broad topic, but I have a teenager, and maybe just briefly, how do we support teenagers through the identity crisis and trying to just, find who they are, and yet, Najwa, they have this idea of who they want to be and who they are, and you can completely see they're kind of losing the way. So I know I've been taking the wrong approach of overcorrecting, criticizing, but how do I bring them back with love, correcting them and showing them the right way? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Anne, for that comment and that question. How best to support a teenager going through the identity formation stage? I will ask, I will let Dorcas say her question or comment, and then we will have that answered. Dorcas?
Oh, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to appreciate the conversation that's going on, and they are so in. Yeah, they are. They are good.
Yes, sorry.
I've once gone through depression, and I'm out of it for some years now. But I wouldn't want anyone to get to that. So having a session for mental health issues and how to approach them would be a good approach. One thing maybe I would wish maybe for the leaders to guide us on is as they carry out the discussion, maybe you can have a number or some number for someone maybe who want to be assisted on an area where you can give us a number to reach out to, so that maybe after every conversation someone might be having an area that they want some assistance, and then maybe you can guide us on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dorcas. About the contacts, we have shared an email and 2 phone numbers that you can definitely reach out. Those are specialists at Farm Hope and psychotherapy and consultancy. So I believe that will be the first step before we eventually carry out any assessments, any states before we advise on anything on the best treatment forward. As for now, to answer the question that was asked and to give closing remarks, I would like to welcome back Dr. Marion, the founder and lead therapist of Farm Hope Psychotherapy and Consultancy. I would like her to answer the question briefly on teenager support on during the stage of identity formation. And after you've answered that, you can also leave your closing remarks on your hope for Farm Hope and the future that you hope this farm will be able to offer to the public. Dr. Marian.
Thank you, Ryan and Lois. I want to share my little time left with Dr. Anita. I think a question has come. If you could briefly help me just say, how can you deal with depression in marriage? Dr. Anita, please, in a few minutes, help me answer that. Then I can go to the adolescents and close.
Yes, please come again. How can you
deal with depression in marriage? I think it's a question on the chat.
How can we deal depression in marriage? Okay.
In marriage, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for for that question. Okay. So in marriage, there's nothing different with handling depression when you're single or married. The most important thing is for you to analyze what are these triggers. Are there triggers and how you can handle the trigger? Because how I handle my trigger is not how you will handle your trigger. It might be the same trigger. But what if this trigger is the spouse? Because now when you're talking about marriage, we are talking about now my spouse. You need to analyze what is the behavior of my spouse? How does my spouse handle issues? Because there's someone who, people are different. Maybe my husband, when he talks to me and he asks a question or when he's mad, he loves it when I keep quiet. Maybe your husband is the type who wants you to answer him back. So you need to know, for my partner, what does he like? What are the boundaries? And is there a way I can get support outside the two of us? And this support, it has to be one which is trusted. And this is where now part of even the self-care, we say you need to have one trusted friend. Even as a couple, you need to have a place where you can go and vent and call it as it is, and you will not be judged. These are now the safe spaces that we are talking about, the emotional safety that you have to feel. Because if you don't feel emotional safe in that relationship, we will get depressed. So can we try and get a couple, if we cannot sit down and solve our issues? Because what will bring this depression is accountability. Can you try and see, am I accountable? The other spouse, the spouse, I mean. How can we enhance accountability? How can we build this trust again? How can we bring this open communication again? Because if you don't have trust, if you're not accountable, I will not feel safe to open up to you. If you're going to be judgmental, so these are values or attributes that we need to engrave in ourselves for us to be less depressed and for us to live in harmony with our spouses. I don't know if I've answered you.
You have, you definitely have. The place of being able to understand yourself and also the spouse to understand you and to support you on a journey. Because I think when we get married, we agree to sickness and to health. So how do we work with one another, including supporting a spouse who needs to deal with their unfinished childhood traumas and childhood businesses that sometimes become suppressed, and we think the fact that we are now grown ups, we don't have to deal with that. I think there's enough research to show that there's a connection with that. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Teenagers are one of the stages that many parents fear. And I think my husband and I have been in the space of being youth pastors for a number of years. And one of the things that we have noted in life is that it is a stage. It is a stage because the first people that, some of us were their youth pastors are now parents, serious parents, who you can't even imagine the things you had to deal with at that stage of their lives. Now they are the ones dealing with them, with their children. And we laugh about it and we say, this child should know that you did exactly this when you are their age. But it's a stage. So the first thing is that parents need to create some confidence in knowing that they understand what the stage is about. they understand what the stage is about. The stage is about a transition of identity versus shame and doubt. And what does the family need to know? The family needs to know that with this stage, we need to help the teenager to develop the correct identity. Now, we need to know that the best place for a teenager to create their identity is among other teenagers. And therefore creating healthy relationships for them. You know, who are the friends around you who share same values? So first and foremost is, what message are we giving our teenagers? Are we telling them you're broken, you're rebellious? No, we are telling them, even though they are struggling with one thing or the other, is that you are a strong person. Your personality is that you enjoy, you enjoy cars, you enjoy puzzles, you enjoy these things, and you will be a great person. And we look at their strengths. What are their strengths? What are their abilities? Even as if we really look at ourselves, we realize that the things we were strong at, the things that we desired and we pursued, became the things that we are actually now doing. But also we need to accept that these children need to find their identity outside of us. So they might not want to enjoy time with us all the time. Okay, so let's not feel rejected. Let's create safe environment, and also open up about our fears. I'm afraid that you will do drugs. I'm afraid that you will enter into crime. I'm afraid. So how do we open up these conversations? How do we help them understand what is my sexual orientation? Because this is an issue today that is becoming a big challenge, that we want to address, who am I and what is my aspect of who am I defining myself to be? Who am I defining myself to be? And how can I be able to engage in a healthy way and in a healthy relationship? Surround them with good information, because sometimes information that young people have, we have three things we say are very clear about a teenager. One is that they have egocentric attributes. They think about themselves. Life is all centered about me. Help them to see life beyond themselves. Okay, help them to see life around and surrounding other people, and being in a space of knowing that I am part of other people and I can be able to engage in that. Then they have another thing that we call, they have a fable. They have a self-centered fable. They think everybody is looking at them, and they think that they are the center of attention. And then they imagine that consequences that other people have will not affect them. That if I take drugs, me, I'm not going to be addicted. If I engage in illicit sex, I am not going to be pregnant. So they think the consequences of life are not going to catch up with them. So slowly and surely helping them to see some of the certain things and to identify themselves, to give them freedom with responsibility, and to attach consequences and choices, and to gently walk with them, even when they do the wrong thing. Let's correct the behavior, not undermine the person or bring the person down. Thank you so much. As Farm Hope, we are grateful to be here to support your mental health and relationship health. We call ourselves mental and relationship health experts. And our greatest passion and assignment is based on these four things. One is we want to create authenticity. We know that when people are authentic, when people are able to accept that I have a problem, then we will be healthy. Because I'm able to say I'm not happy today, and I can be able to, I don't need to pretend that I can be an authentic person. Secondly, is we want to support health relationships. We are engaging and creating a product very soon that we are going to unveil that helps to go to our universities and to the young professionals to create healthy marriages. Because we are saying relationships are choices. They are not just emotions. We don't just fall into it. We are walking into it, and we are creating healthy relationships. We want to continue to grow. We want to challenge the community, the families, the organizations to continue to grow. And we want to integrate all human attributes, even as Dr. Anita has talked about, biopsychosocial spiritual. That's for us because of our systemic approach. What are our goals or our strategy? One is our goal is to connect professionals with the community. You've now gotten to know our professionals. We have psychiatrists, we have Dr. Anita, we have Dr. Igamba, we have Violet, we have myself, we have our students on internship, and we are connecting our professionals with the community. We are also connecting the community with the professionals. You know, the community here is what you need, you know, see what we do, understand what each of these fields do. We are also connecting our students to the professionals and to the community. And we have Ryan and we have Lois here with us. So we are connecting also that, and we are keeping families talking. Keep the families talking. One of the great conversations I ask, even in the churches, is what are the conversations happening at the table, at the dinner table, at the breakfast table? What conversations are happening when we are walking, when we are cooking? Those are the conversations we need to highlight and to talk about. And we'll continue to engage in outreach and in being able to come to you. I know we have a topic or two that we haven't dealt with today, but our team is going to get your feedback. So please give us feedback and tell us what it is that we can do for you to continue to support you, to continue to bring our services to your church, to your community, and even to support you. Thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you. Our goal is to ensure that we are all having healthy conversations and healthy relationships. Back to you, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Marion. Thank you very much to all our panelists, all our speakers, Ms. Violet, Dr. Anita. Thank you very much, Lois, our moderator for today. It's been a pleasure working alongside you towards making this a successful webinar. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to everyone who has responded to our posters, who have responded to our emails. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. As you can see, this is Farm Hope on the screen. Dr. Marion Muturi on the left, Dr. John Igamba, Ms. Violet Carrier, moderator Lois Muriuki, myself, and of course our guest speaker, Dr. Anita. Thank you very much. Once again, here are our services that we offer: individual, couple, and family psychotherapy, child and adolescent psychotherapy, organizational mental health services as well. Our values as an organization is to offer expertise, professionalism, and relational therapeutic treatment. Our contacts are in the chat. However, you can contact us beyond this to find out any more additional information. Thank you very much. You may leave at your pleasure. Thank you.